Outer Orange.
Привет! So I recently reviewed the premium deck set. You can actually check that out over here, like wherever I put it right here. You guys check that out. That's coming out pretty soon, but we're also getting a ton of, we're getting another set right after that. And it's going to have a crazy amount of new cards that's going to really change the premium format and actually probably going to be for the better. We're going to be seeing a completely new format come out pretty soon. And we just got a bunch of new cards on top of that. And I actually haven't a chance to talk about last week's cards, and I really want to talk about those. So we're going to go ahead and kind of do a little mini deep dive on specifically the premium reveals today. A while back, I talked about the strides. I'm not going to go down that path again because that's kind of a lot to process. But to give you guys kind of like a quick, pretty much summary, I'll probably have like the pictures in front of me. We have old strides that are getting updated that have new effects that give you imaginary gift markers, which was like originally like a V only type of thing, but now it's like crossing over with older cards is the best way to put it. And then on top of that, we got these new crits that essentially draw you cards just like Zero. And actually a while ago, I mean, like when we first started getting these reveals, I even said, I was like, it'd be really funny if they just took all the Zero stuff and just kind of threw them into the TCG, which actually looks like exactly what they're doing. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we actually start seeing some older cards in future sets, like just older cards getting revamped with Zero effects on them. Because FYI, the stuff that they did with Zero, some of the cards that they upgraded in there was actually really cool. And we're gonna go ahead and kind of break it down here. So the biggest thing that I think like really shook people was these new cards getting essentially new skills on them, because they're actually old cards and they're getting upgraded skills on them, which is actually pretty cool. So starting off with this new Cray Elemental, or updated Cray Elemental, I should say. This one says GB1 was used placed on rear guard circle. All of your points rear guards the same column as this unit loses its abilities and cannot gain them until the end of turn. Now I will say, it does say it says during your turn. This card can kind of like spook, it make you think like, oh my god, I can do all this crazy stuff. Because when I first read it, I was like, oh my god, I can run this in Bermuda Triangle, and then I read it again, I'm like, oh, it's my turn only, so can't place on your opponent's effect. However, there may be a future where this card actually gets really good. It's happened before and it'll happen again. Cards like these are like cards you can throw into literally any deck, and because you can throw it into literally any deck, there's always a chance for them to come back, and you just never know. And turning off your opponent's abilities is actually pretty huge, and the fact that they can't gain them is actually insane too. Like even if your opponent tries to like regain the effect, they won't. And another thing that's interesting is the fact that it says they can't gain them. I think that's interesting because it kind of is almost saying like if your opponent tries to do something, we don't really know what. I don't really know if there's a way to gain effects or give. I guess in this sense, if they try to put an effect on those cards, they just won't be able to. But it's just really cool to see like they're kind of starting to have more like this player movement between both players. I'm really digging that. So that's this card. This card's actually like the beginning of all this stuff. There's more. We have the Pecker, or the Peeker. It's a light elemental Peeker. It says this unit cannot be chosen by points card effects, which already makes it a really good card actually. And it says when your Vanguard with 11k power lowers attack, choose one of your Vanguards and gets plus 2k power to end of turn. So GB1 effects, so nothing too insane, but what it's showing, like this card is pretty much saying, it's like, hey, remember those old 11k cards that like do nothing? Yeah, we're starting to update those. That's pretty much what this card says. I think this is the beginning of like future cards probably getting like more updates like this, and we probably might even see some more support that directly supports the 11k bases. If you guys don't know, a lot of cards are 11k bases from the past, and because of that they're constantly behind because they're always swinging under. Sometimes that could be good, but for the most time it's usually bad in the later games. It also means that your defenses are also just less important. It means you're constantly at mercy to your opponent hitting over and always like killing you essentially, because they can always hit. If they can always hit, that's really bad, especially defensively. So you usually don't want to be in that kind of situation, and that's why a lot of 11k Vanguards got killed off. Now we have the Hanali. Now Hanali is a big one. This, obviously the community kind of went crazy about this last week. I was one of the people, but I was kind of like just talking to my friends about it because I really didn't have the time to like sit down and like actually record the video for it, but I'm doing it now. So pretty much Hanali has always been basically a staple for a while. Not like a staple, but it's been a card that people have been running for a while now. Like it's at least since I've been playing the game, Hanali has been in and out of the format pretty frequently, mostly in, sometimes out. Sometimes people throw her in for whatever, sometimes take it out, but meta of course shifts, so when meta shifts you don't always need it, but for the most part it's been a very used card. In this situation we have all your rear guards cannot attack the Vanguard. All rear guards cannot attack the Vanguard for the 5th or more battle that the turn of that turn unless the CP was paid. This is a rear guard effect. This does affect both opponents. I need to make that clear. It means you as well. So if you have this card on the board, it means you cannot attack 5 or more times either. Usually you want to use this card defensively, which is another reason why this is like an in and out type of card. If you could call it mid battle, it's like perfect. But that's pretty much the old effect. It's always kind of been like this. Also, you'll notice, so the old effect used to have a counterblast for it. You used to have to pay essentially to do this unless you have all face down counterblast. If you have all face down counterblast, Blast, you actually do it for free. But they changed the effect to where now you can just do it. As long as it's on the board, the skill is active. So then we do have another skill, which is even more insane than the first skill, which is a crazy to think about because the first skill is also already really good. It says act on rearguard cost, remove this unit until the end of your opponent's next turn. You get when your opponent's rearguard would attack the Vanguard for the 5th or more battle of that turn, your opponent must pay a counterblast, otherwise they cannot attack. So long story short, you can now remove this card, and then when it's your opponent's turn, they are limited to what they can and cannot do, which is really cool because we've never had this before. And also it forces your opponents to be stuck in pretty much like almost like a mini death turn. They're kind of, because a lot of decks can multi-attack and a lot of decks rely on multi-attacking to kill, and a lot of decks are very like are usually in a win con situation when this happens. So when you throw down this card and tell your opponent no, they essentially get stuck a turn, and also it forces you to have pretty much one extra turn to live, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Kind of just depends. It depends on how deeply meta shifts to see how much this will affect things. But this is a very insane card. This is probably the most insane card that's been printed in a while, in terms of like how much it changes the format. Like the last time we've had a card that directly changed the format this much was actually the old Clear Elementals that were printed in 2020. Well, they were new, but now they're kind of old. But the pretty much the 2020 or what was it, 2021, whatever the set that has Azan in it, like when those Clear Elementals got printed, that was the last time we've had like cards really drastically change things. Like obviously we've had Strides come out, we've had like Heal Guardians drop and all that stuff, but it didn't like warp the format or anything like that. This card can actually like directly change how premium is going to be like for a while. But of course I'm saying this in context of like just speculation. This isn't me going like, yep, this is just how it's going to be. Format's going to change. It's more so the fact that this card is just so this card fixes so much, also unfixes a lot of things, but this card changes so much about how people are going to start playing, knowing that this card exists, that it directly will change how people are going to deck build and how people are going to think mentally in terms of how they're going to try to win the game, right? So because they're going to change how they're going to win the game, it directly changes the whole format in my eyes. That's how I see it. And when I read this card, I was like, wow, that is like a literal direct like bullseye hit of how to change a format. And I actually like it. I like this card, and I think this is a good direction. It forces people to not just slap down cards and try to kill you, which is what a lot of people have been doing this whole time. We've had so many different formats come through in premium, and a lot of it is just like, yeah, I'm just gonna attack you 30 times. Can you guard all this? And like honestly, it's like cool and all, but it also gets really annoying. It gets tiresome because you can't do anything about it. It's one of those things where once your opponent hits that state, you just sit there and go, no guard, no guard, no guard. Like there's nothing you can do, especially under loop situations. And unless you have a direct way to stop it, which only a few clans did have access to do that, you get very stuck. But now giving pretty much every clan access to do something about it, I think is a really good thing. A while back, like I want to say 2-3 years ago, actually, it was during the Medaille meta. Had a long, and I mean a very long discussion with someone about this. It was like 2 to 3 hours, and literally the first thing I said, I was like, we need defensive Clear Elementals because it's the only thing that you can directly throw into decks and be able to stop these ridiculous plays that some people can do where it's literally just like impossible to get around them. A good example is Spike Brothers had like this crazy loop thing that it could do where it just pretty much goes through all its heals and then it goes into a loop, and there's just nothing you can do to stop it unless they hit the over trigger, and there's nothing you can do to prevent them to stop what they're trying to do either. They're just going to keep doing it, and then you just lose the game. It's a little high rolly, but it doesn't change the fact that you can just randomly auto lose to something that you can't stop no matter what you do. Like there's nothing you can do to stop it, and like it just sucks. Like you just kind of die. And having stuff like this just really helps. And I said a long time ago, it's like we really need Cray defensives. And the argument back actually was that's cool and all, but that means toolbox decks are going to get better. And I agree, toolbox decks will get better because there's definitely clans that have direct access to cards like these, right? But the fact that it gives people the option to run these cards and save themselves, I think is better than not having the option at all. And that's just my personal take on it. And we're seeing this, and I'm super ecstatically happy. I want that to be clear. I am like the happiest person alive right now that this is happening. I don't know if I'll feel this way later on, but I'm just happy this exists because I think it's always been needed, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And we're seeing this a lot. And like we saw this with some of the overdressed cards that have been getting printed too, that can be used in premium, by the way. And that also helps kind of stuff like this because those cards can be used and they also help with all this stuff. We're very much getting a lot of defensive creep is the best way to put it. And I like it. It is aggressive. We're getting a lot of it, but I like it. And I think it's good. It might change some stuff. And I like the fact that we're changing stuff. I'm tired of like the constant like, I wrote up, I got my WinCon GG. It does make Excel decks so much worse, which is like a good thing and a bad thing. Kills decks like Dolls pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. I think decks like Dolls are gonna be like super destroyed by this. There might be a way to, I'm not like a Pale Moon expert, there might be a way to like play around it maybe. I don't know, but that's the cool thing is now people are gonna start figuring out how to play around stuff like this, and that's also cool because again it's changing how people are playing, which I'm all for. Anyway, I'm done. That was a long discussion just about Honolulu, which I expected it to be a long discussion because this is obviously like the meat and bones of like the format drastically changing. However, that was last week. We got even more. So they announced that they're gonna reveal the Harmonix Messiah, and then they did reveal the Harmonix Messiah. Now I never played the old one. I've actually only seen the Zero one, and actually like when this got announced, pretty much everyone, me in the Discord alone, me in the Discord are pretty much just like, yeah, it's probably with the Zero effect. I think the Zero effect had a heal stack on it too, and I think even in the discussion I was like, yeah, they're probably gonna change the way the heal works if we even get the access to the heal effect, because there was in the description of the Zero one, you can pretty much grab a heal and put it into your hand, because in Zero they gave heals the ability to guard, and normally Zero you can't guard. You can't normally guard in Zero, and then they gave access to get the heal so you can guard essentially if you get put into bad situations. I assumed that a skill was just not going to be a thing, or they were going to change it completely and have it be something else. So let's go ahead and go down here, and we're going to kind of go through like what we got today. So these are counter charge, soul charge heals. They're heals that have been around for I think G era. And basically they were not really used, or they were used like maybe one copy because they were 5k shields. And so I forgot to mention the old cards that we just saw, they all got upgraded on shield value, which is insane, by the way. And also the triggers that we've been seeing have also been getting upgraded on shield value and trigger value as well, which is insane because that is a huge difference. 5k triggers are pretty much like gone now, or they're going to be gone, honestly. We might still have some of the old ones, but this is pretty much saying like, hey, like 10k defenses are coming. These are pretty simple. I think they're just eroding the specifically the shield on them. So the heal, the actual trigger effect is going to become 10k instead of 5k, and the shield is going to become 15k instead of 10k. So now you can actually play these knowing that you're not losing shield value, which is actually really cool. What's really interesting about this is that the Grand Blue player, the heal that this is on is actually a ghosty, and Beatrice is a ghosty, and that's ghosty support. And yeah, you know where I'm going with this. More ghosty support. It just made ghosties like 10 times better because they already get a ton of shield. Now I have a 20k counter charger, which is just like amazing. Like I like, why play Night Rose? I don't know. I'm half joking. Night Rose is really good too, but holy crap, like Beatrice just got even more support. Ghosty Gize, hello. It might actually be more of a thing now. Like not even joking. But anyway, so I'm really hyped about that. Grand Blue just gets better. I've been joking with some of my friends. Like every single time a new card gets announced for premium, where we're just saying that like Grand Blue just keeps eating well, which I'm happy because it's my baby. I can play Grand Blue. I'm ecstatic. Now I just want to warn y'all. I didn't play when this card was like a thing. I didn't even really use it at Zero. So I'm going pretty blindly with how much is it going to affect things, because I'm just clueless. This is my clueless part. But anyway, so this is Messiah. It's a Cray Elemental. It can be played in pretty much any deck. You can only have one. So you should try a step. You can choose one or more of your cards. The Sun will grade through your graders card. You can pretty much try it. And then when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, choose any of your locked cards, unlock them. If everyone you unlock, you have to discard for it. So essentially, if your Pope board gets locked, you can ride this and then unlock everything. You do have to discard 5 or more, depending on how much you have locked, or less, depending on if you have 2 locked, you discard 2. Anyway, and then there's another thing. So it has more. There's like 2 more effects here. So it has an auto Vanguard G-Zone effect. When this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle or at the beginning of your turn, if this card is face up and your damage zone has 2 or less cards and no new cards were put into your damage zone during your opponent's preceding turn, cast put the top card of your deck into your damage zone and draw a card. Now, this is really cool. First of all, you get to straight up take a damage. Then you also get to draw on top of that. And now you can also get yourself like a counterblast. Now this does like make playing against people or playing against certain stuff kind of awkward. What I mean is if you try to damage knife someone, like, or give them like certain increments of damage, this goes around it. It also says G-Zone effect. So this can be activated while it's in the G-Zone too, which I think is a very interesting mechanic on its own. Now 100%, now I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't know all the possible applications of this. Like there's probably so much more than I'm even looking at right now that I just don't even know about. But I think it's cool. I think this is cool. I think the fact that this is this is here and you can constantly have it face up and it's pretty much just there for you to use, because it says if this card is face up at the beginning of your turn, you can just keep doing this. As long as your damage zone is 2 or less, you can just keep up, like, so you can be at 1 damage or you can be at no damage. You can just keep giving yourself damage and then you can keep drawing for it too. So I think overall it's just a very interesting effect. This can keep happening every single turn. So if your opponent tries to deny you or tries to do certain weird stuff, you can be like, well, I'm at 1 or less damage, I'm gonna take a damage. And then like next turn try to deny you again, well, I'm at 2 or less damage, I'm gonna take a damage. You know, you can kind of just keep doing that. It's very interesting. I like it. And then there's one more. It doesn't have to be flipped though, so just keep in mind it has to be flipped. So you can't like you can't use it like a lot. You have to flip it at some point. So, but also this is another one. So the last effect, this one's actually safe. It says G-Zone. When your grade 1 is placed by riding from a 0, if you went second, you can cost like reveal it, and then put a Guardian Shield ticket into your hand. That is just so cool. So first of all, we got Quick Shield like a while ago, like I think like 2020 or so. And ever since the Quick Shield came out, I was like, we need another one. Not like a massive one. We either need to errata the one we have or we need another one. Like I've been saying this for a while. And we finally got another one. It's been a couple of years, but we finally got one. I really wanted this in V, to be honest with you. Like just another way to like, it could even be like if your opponent has like 2 gift markers, you just get another token. Like you just get another shield token. Like I'm not even joking, for 2 reasons. First of all, the Quick Shield and the Guardian Shield that we got here are Blitz orders. If I'm not mistaken, this should be, it is a Blitz order. So Blitz orders are very weird in terms of they work super differently from like normal like rulings. They go around a lot of weird stuff. Like if your opponent like forces you to like have to do some weird interactions where you have to call stuff from hand, you can actually choose to call the Quick Shield or the Guardian Shield instead. And what happens is like you turn off their effects sometimes through them. A good example is literally there's a card called Gas Steel in V. It tells you to take a card from your hand and put into a damage zone. So you can actually put the Quick Shield and then nothing happens. Or you can put the Guardian Shield and nothing happens. There's also Nubatama where they force you to call cards to the field and have those cards attack your Vanguard. You can just call these cards instead. Now they have nothing to use because they evaporate. There's War. Guard restricts are also applied to this as well. So you can actually use the Blitz orders and then you go around guard restricts. So long story short, that's just the cherry on top. There's probably even more. And Angel Feather actually has some weird things they can do. They can heal back down with cards like these. So essentially they can put stuff into the damage zone from their hand, but they can put the Quick Shield instead or the Guardian Shield, and then they just don't take a damage. So again, they can just keep they can essentially heal through effects like these. So there's just there's a lot of room for cool things they can do with the Quick Shield and the Guardian Shield now, outside from like, hi, I'm going to use this as guard value. Also, again, as guard value, they're amazing. Cool. This also makes going second like really, really good. So just something to keep in mind, because if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you get both effects now. So you get both the Quick Shield and you get the Guardian Shield as long as you do this. So just something to keep in mind. You're going to have this in your zone. You're going second. Guess what? You're getting both shields, which is awesome because 25k shield that's just magically in your hand that you can use to go guard through a lot of BS. Because trust me, you're going to see a lot of BS, and cards like these definitely help with that. So that's really cool. So if you guys don't know what the Guardian Shield does, I know I just kind of went on about it for a while, but it pretty much just says you give 20k to something. So that's it. I'm talking just straight up of like just reaction here. One, I haven't tested like any of this stuff, and the reason why I haven't been testing is because I've just been waiting for everything to kind of come out. I've also just been waiting for you know, just to catch up. Like right now we're in a completely different format in current TCG. This stuff drops a couple bucks, but this stuff drops in a bit, and we're currently in a different competitive format right now. So because of that, I'm not going to test this when I have other stuff that I need to test for that is completely different from this, because if it's not obvious, whatever the format we're currently in is going to be completely different in a couple months. We're going to be looking at a brand new pro format practically. It's not going to be the same. Like I don't think a single thing that is currently meta or is currently relevant is going to be relevant or important anymore. It might be useful, like some of the stuff might be used, but the format is going to be so different that we're all going to be playing different decks, and it's all going to be completely different, and the meta is going to be completely different, and the best decks are going to be completely different, and the worst decks are going to be completely different. It's possible that some of the worst decks that we're currently seeing now might turn into the best decks. There's just so much that's going to change that it's hard, that there is just, you know, it's going to be different. I think for those people that really like deck building, like really like sinking their teeth into like a big card pool, they're gonna be really ecstatic for this. Like I think anyone that just loves sitting there and like constantly brewing, this is like brew essential, because like everything's changing. I hope you guys enjoyed my TED talk, because that's pretty much what all this was. It was just a big long TED talk. So if you guys liked listening to my voice, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to shop at 50cards.shop. Use my code orange. All the stuff that I mentioned, pretty sure he's gonna be selling it, obviously, because it's like his main thing, right? So you know, feel free to check all of that out. Peace out. Das vidanios. See you guys in a future video. Bye.